Welcome. I want to welcome you all to our 50th episode of In Conversation with Convergence. My name is George Evans, and this is a monthly podcast where we feature our clients and special guests. We help you to get to know the market leaders and some of the top issues facing the industry. I have a great guest today. I'm joined today by Declan Byrne. Declan is PwC's Asset and Wealth Management Global Assurance Leader. That is a long title to fit on a card. I'm glad we don't have cards anymore, Declan, right?
Right, that's right.
But and if I have it right, I think you're with PwC probably over 20 years. So I want to welcome you and thank you very much for joining this. This is a historic one for us, 50 in a row, and over 4 years we've done this on a monthly basis. So we're very honored to have you be part of it today.
Oh, you're very kind, George. It's great to be here. A long-time listener, first-time caller. Is that how the saying goes?
Yeah.
But no, I know 50 episodes. That's a milestone. So it is my honor to be here. And congratulations, George, and all these podcasts. I know they're very well received in the market. So it is great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, we go way back. You know, we're now about 13 years old, and I believe PwC was probably one of our first 5 or 10 clients. It all started with a now retired partner named Mike Greenstein, who you've known over the years. So
if he's listening, say hi, Mike.
Yeah,
so he is.
Yeah. So listen, why don't we do this? I want to make sure our listeners get to know you a little bit, right? And maybe talk. Let's first start just about you, right? Your background, your pedigree, and then maybe secondly, while everybody knows PwC is the big part of the Big Four, right? And you know, the Big Four battle for number one and in the Big Four, right? But let's talk about you, your background, and then I'd love just you to give kind of a thumbnail for everyone on Price Waterhouse in terms of its, you know, the kind of the footprint today and really probably the focus areas of Price Waterhouse these days.
Yeah, no, great, George. So for myself, I've been in America now 20 odd years. Came here, fresh faced off the boat, as they say, into New York in late 2004. And thankfully, I rode the wave of the PCOB in their first few years and got hired directly from one of our competitors, actually in Ireland, where I'm originally from. Became a chartered accountant over there. So, I came here for maybe a year or two stint. Long-term girlfriend left her behind, and but as it turned out, stayed for 20 years. She's now my wife. We've got 3 kids based in Boston. Been lucky to have a great career at PwC, and I've spent my 20s in New York. Then I did a stint in Tokyo, and I'm just back from there last week. Spent a couple of years over there managing our global relationships and helping the local practice and working around Asia. And then at 17, then moved to Boston. Great client base up here. Worked with my mentor, Peter Finnerty. He was the mutual fund leader here in PwC, and it's been a whirlwind last couple of years. A lot of industry changes. I've been involved in our technology. I leveraged the how we develop and scale our global technology into the last 2 years being the global assurance leader for PwC. For our asset wealth management clients, and now probably leveraging my experience both in New York and Tokyo to help our global clients in the assurance practice. So it's been a wonderful time, a wonderful place. Especially wasn't anticipating this 20 odd years ago.
Yeah. So tell us about the big keep getting bigger. Tell us a bit about your footprint kind of worldwide and kind of really the main business lines these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think, George, many people know PwC as and we are the number one audit and tax firm. From footprint standpoint, we have, by far, I think by AUM and mutual funds, 60% market share. ETFs, I believe, 80%. In the private market space, it's either 1 or 2 in every asset classes.
Yeah.
It's a bit more competitive there. But people, view us, particularly in the tax and audit spaces, as being number one. Given our client footprint, and our we have independence rules and regulations around that. Our consulting business has been growing and catching up with our competitors, and certainly in the last 2 years, we've changed our focus actually to be more around managed services and how we think about helping clients more in the back office and leveraging that experience we've gained through auditing the biggest firms in the world in asset management into what we've learned, and then helping our not audit relationships into, what they're going through is, very often troublesome times in terms of their people and operations. It's a great time in the industry. There's
Yeah.
also a lot to learn and leverage experience that we have given our broad industry experience. So we've transitioned a lot to maybe help in our non-audit base into our managed services platform, and that's keeping me busy too, because a lot of it's underpinning by the technology and the people that came from the experience that we've gained in the audit side of the house, of which it came from originally.
Yeah, no, and I think as you and I prepared a little bit for this, what I wanted you to share and talk about is, this high level of optimism that you have right now for asset and wealth management, right? And I think, we talked about, the opportunities, right, that exist almost in every segment. So spend a little time with us just on that.
Yeah, and I'll speak to US. I also feel the same optimism globally after being in Tokyo and speaking to our clients over there last week. But like, I am pretty optimistic. Maybe 5 years ago I would have been less optimistic, because I do believe, and most of the segments, all the segments we see, there's opportunities. So if I take it one at a time, I think the private markets players that are out there, I mean, clearly mass affluent are interested, high net worth individuals. Everyone wants access to private markets, private
Right.
credit, and the like. So we're massive growth in that. I think our clients are pretty optimistic in that world. And there's opportunities there for better distribution, better tie-ups with some of the more traditional asset managers and broker dealers. So I think the private market space, it's well trodden. People know that it's clearly focused the SEC and others, but I do believe there's good opportunities there. I mean, looking at some of the numbers even for this year, particularly in the liquid private markets, interval funds and all that jazz. I mean, I think the AUM is already up to like 100 billion as of the end of May in the interval fund space, and I think there's a launch of around, what my numbers are, 25 new interval fund this year, and
Yeah.
it's every client we're talking to is thinking about interval funds. So that's giving us optimism, and they're accumulating assets.
Well, and I just told you there for a minute. So, as you know, that as private alternatives is really one of our specialties. And, one of the things and I think you're spot on, because, we did a forecast recently, 25 through say 27. And,
Yeah,
we're projecting almost 46,000 new funds
wow.
and over almost 5 trillion in new private assets, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah,
that takes into things which we'll talk a little bit about, less regulation, the democratization of alternatives, and all of these things that are going on, I think, right now that really fuel growth, right?
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's and there's two sides to it, which maybe we'll spend some time on. Like, I worry the most about on the retail alts, just what I'd call just investor protection, right? I think
Yeah,
that's going
yeah,
to be a big issue, right? And
yeah,
but go on. So we talked about the private segment, but we're
yeah.
working on, hey, just being optimistic about all the segments you're in.
That's right, and I would like to go back to that. Your numbers jive what we're thinking as well. I mean, globally, we would say it's 20% CAGR on private assets year over year for the next
Yep.
couple of years, and that is above and beyond traditional assets. But in terms of segmentation of the market, maybe think about the larger players. Those who are greater than a billion. I mean, they are excited about the opportunities ahead. A lot of them are into the ETF space. They've already been there a long time, and in my mind, they have the reinvestment capacity to change and avail of the opportunities that we're seeing in the market right now. So I think the large players are feeling good. I mean, they have a lot to work through, and we'll get to that, George. But like, I do think the larger players have the investment capacity. And
Yep.
when I think of the mid-tier players, and this is where I probably struggled with over the last couple of years, but I'm more optimistic than ever, is, I think we're looking at, entering the 2000s, a time of challenge, consolidation. I think we are going to still see a bit of consolidation. Deals are starting to pick up, maybe slow in the last quarter, but I do think there's more opportunity than ever for the mid tier asset managers. I do think we've seen, in light of what we said in the private asset space, and we'll get to digital assets, growth in niche funds. Like nobody can compete with the S&P 500 funds with the big players, but there are asset classes that people are demanding for.
Yep.
And I think there's opportunity for those mid-tier players to stand out. So I'm optimistic over that. I've seen the active ETFs market. I think everyone's seen that like there are a significant number of net new launches from the lower tier player, the mid tier players, and it is in the active ETF space. 80% of ETF launches in this year alone are from the active ETFs. And you look at the accumulation of assets, not all of them are in the traditional, big five ETF players. And that gives me positivity around the opportunity for a mid-tier player to capture the future of ETFs, which is active. I mean, active ETFs are only 10% of the ETF market. I mean, passive is still all going to be there in particular, but nonetheless, I do believe the mid-tier players have a good opportunity for active ETFs. And then just the opportunity for tie-up. And what I mean by that is, in light of the industry's gotten very hard. Like I said, the large players will have the money to reinvest into, launching an alts platform and doing it the right way and all the compliance stuff. But when I think of the mid-tier players and the private asset players, like there are going to be opportunities for partnerships, which probably never existed before. And there are better, more, newer providers out there from an efficiency standpoint, from operational standpoint. So I think the technology aspect of where the industry is going and disruptive technology does give opportunities for mid-tier players to either operate more efficiently, tie up with more private markets players, and I do think there's optimism there. And then finally, George, and I'm Irish, so I speak too much, is digital assets play, and I think that is certainly and tokenization. I'll add that in as well. Again, back to the non, the smaller players, they have opportunities here. I mean, digital assets gone up to 100 billion. And then I think we've predicted in our global paper last year that we expect tokenized funds to be about 320 billion by 2028. And, I just sat around the table with all our Asia Pac leaders last week. And, Asia's going, and even Japan, who have lived there, and they take their time sometimes.
Yeah.
But even they have tokenized funds done by the mega banks, and that's part and parcel of the asset management industry over there. So I do think tokenization is going to be really interesting. And again, more cause for optimism.
Yeah.
More cause for optimism.
So I listen, and I think we kind of see that too. I think you don't necessarily see the consolidation that people across the board that people expected, right? I think people have found their niches and their boutiques and their partnerships. How about other opportunities, right? We talk, when I keep seeing is how hard the middle and the back office is, right? And we keep seeing those numbers of people grow, the technology challenges keep growing. I just wanted you to comment a little bit from a Price Waterhouse perspective of, some of these firms to me are just surviving, right? And your thoughts on investment by PwC in that part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the element of truth to that. Now, it depends where you're talking about, Jordan. I think a lot of the investment is going into the front office. I mean, it is true. We talked about the opportunities. All the stuff we just talked about. That's where a lot of the net new money, like there is not unlimited capacity unless you're top tier. So I do think it's a challenge for the front office getting all the good stuff. They're getting investment capacity. They want to drive a new business. They were engaged with the investor. That's what matters. AUM brings in revenue. I think it is a challenge in the back and middle office where it's a survival mode. And there's just, there's a couple of things that makes me a bit concerned and where PwC comes in actually. And firms like Convergence, because I do think there's an ecosystem that's developed that is actually can avail of the opportunities. But let me finish my thought. I don't think there's enough investment into back office, middle office. I think there's a challenge in the people side. I think of the age group, George, of the operation officers. The average age is going up. From a CPA standpoint, those who populate the back office, and it's true, there are declining CPA class sizes. The
Yeah.
big four, great, we get our people, but CPA classes are down 60% than where they were
Wow.
10 to 15 years ago. So that is having a knock-on effect onto the both the people side of the back and middle office because they can't find the people. And I think there's certain people worried about succession planning. And maybe it's not the most glamorous job anymore. Maybe people, the young people want to go into Google and Amazon and all these places. Is it, do you want to go and work in the middle office of an asset manager? And so I do think there's a challenge around investment, a challenge around people, and then a challenge around the technology piece. There's lots of opportunity, George, tons of opportunities and good stuff happening in technology. But you bring it all together and the growth opportunities. The technologies almost put people over the hedge, if I be honest. And you think of Gen AI and the possibilities, but also the challenges and implementing it the right way, the right governance to keep your board happy that you've done it the right way and no, mistakes. It's just gotten very, very hard. And so when I look at the ecosystem, maybe that's my point. The ecosystem of what we're seeing in the industry is there's a lot of great vendors out there and who do a lot of good stuff around a lot of areas. Reconciliations, data analytics, data management, reg reporting, and there's some really, really cool
Yeah.
cloud native, AI native organizations out there availing of helping with the back and middle office. There is one challenge though of all of that. Everyone's running to the opportunities. And certainly the biggest asset managers in the world are thinking about being more efficient. But they are struggling even with our ecosystem. And where I think PwC comes in, and we're very much into the partnership model, is I think there's an opportunity and maybe a miss where, I think we're coming into the back office asset manager and saying, listen, we know there's some great vendors out there, but we know it's hard for you to figure out, where it fits into your tech stack, your operationals, managing it all, and then bringing people, and people are the key to this, bring people around that technology and software providers to have at least the most efficient process. Because some of our clients have told us, well, listen, I'd love to use that vendor, but then I'll also use that vendor and that vendor. I'm confused and overwhelmed. And it's that confused and overwhelmed piece that, I do believe, we have an opportunity to step in with our depth of people, back to where I talked about in terms of our CPA, our understanding of the technology landscape, our understanding of some of the aspects that are more, tangential to what we do as a firm, tax reporting and fund oversight. I mean, that's what we do in an audit. So I think we're stepping in many cases to help clients just manage the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Uh, we're not going to replace the ecosystem. Like we're not looking to compete with administrators. We want to work with great vendors and just pull it all together. And because I think it's a kind of unique time in the industry where an opportunity, it's not just partnerships between managers, but partnerships between vendors. And I think we can make this industry better together.
I think that's well said, Declan, because, some of the things we look at, right, and you're aware of this with some of the work we do for Price Waterhouse. We do simple things like we'll risk score the middle and the back office and the infrastructure of an advisor. And you start to see, the red flags that exist and what some of these firms have built, right? And they're not scalable, and they teeter on qualified audits and regulatory infractions, and right. So there's a lot of, I think the good news is, I think there's been a great way to identify these weaknesses, and it needs. I think part of what you say is spot on, that the whole thing needs a quarterback, right?
That's right. That's right.
Right? Because you got lots of people coming at them with very individual and siloed solutions, but and they may be the right solutions, but you still need that general contractor, like building the house, right, with all the subcontractors in there, right? And
That's
and
right.
I look at the risk scoring we do, as one. The other thing I see, which I'm surprised of, and my numbers are probably off, but directionally right. The last time I looked, believe it or not, probably 30% of SEC registered advisors' funds are still self-administered,
Hmm.
something like that, right? And that's been pretty steady for a while now, right? And even though lots of people keep outsourcing, people stay in house, people outsource partially. So we're seeing the administrators, for example, as you well know, I think are starting to pursue more heavily lift outs of the middle and the back office versus just doing an acquisition of another administrator. I think
Yeah.
it's more economical for them. And also, I think they're seeing people don't want to painfully necessarily move this stuff a function at a time, right? They're
Hmm.
just kind of saying, listen, there's a better mousetrap. Let's look at that. But I think what someone like you brings to the table is kind of the best breed, right? Coming in and really looking at kind of the best model for that firm, right? Using multiple players maybe in that solution,
That's
right?
right, and including like that's right because I do think there's different clients for different clients have different needs, and it's more like it's not all or nothing. It's kind of like building a house. I love the contractor analogy. It's like building a house customized to the house owner, and for us it's like we have many partners we work with. And we bring the right partner to the table, and I do all of it as a people plus technology play.
Yep.
Back to my point around our people and our industry knowledge, you combine that then with the right vendor and the right client and their client need. I think it becomes less overwhelming for the asset managers too, because I think you do need to be an element of customization because it can't be all or nothing. And there's so much going on. I think you need to be a bit more sensitive and also how you bring it together too. Because first of all, we've seen massive outsourcing of tax, then you go into reporting function and reg, and I think it's a good opportunity to be more customized, menu based. That's our term, menu based
Yep.
to fit the client's needs versus just throwing a one solution to everything. I just don't think it's the right way to go to serve the end user.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So we talked a little bit about partnerships and talent. Let's talk a little bit about the importance of data, right?
Yeah.
And bad data to me means we learned this a long time ago. We when we first started Convergence, and we come in here to take out the legacy guys and try to build a better mousetrap. We focused on the steak first, not the sizzle, right? Like, get the content right, get the
Yeah.
data right, and if you have that reputation that of having excellent coverage and accurate data, that makes things like AI a lot easier, right? In theory. But tell us a little bit about what you're seeing with data, what Price Waterhouse is doing on that kind of data and AI front.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and back to your point, bad data, bad AI. Just that's the fundamental. Bad data,
Yep.
bad AI. And that's what we're seeing in our clients. I mean, there's transit like many of them are doing the Gen AI stuff, and that's the co-pilots of the world. But to do it really at scale, they're more focused on the data management. So it's a great point you made, George. In terms of us, how we're approaching it, I mean, like I mentioned earlier on, our strategy for helping clients is to leverage what we've done in the audit and tax practice. So what have we done in the audit and tax practice? I mean, up to 20 years, 15 years ago, I think we started our net solution around getting data in from administrators, organizing it, enriching with market data, building a platform that's multi-tenant and can do different things. One of which was our first use case was doing an audit straight through. And that ecosystem of methodically, and it took time, and we know this is hard,
Yep.
working with administrators, mapping the data, having a taxonomy, but having good architects who are thinking ahead, not just for the next client, but all of our clients together. Has enabled us to build actually a platform of over 120 trillion of our clients' assets to go through on an annual basis. And that comes through from the audit and tax process, even beyond asset and wealth management. Actually, it's underpinning a lot of what we do now at PwC, and we're kind of proud of that it came out from our asset and wealth management team. So I think what we focused on is standardization. You
Yep.
can only do anything at scale if you standardize it, and then for us, it's also enriching with market data. And then and once you have that standardization in a multi-tenant, cross-client, cross-data points, then you can do different things, including AI. And now we're in a position of, working with people like Microsoft, and we're public on that, where we're one of the only big four in their specialized top 10 global network, global project, I think they call it the Vanguard program, to work with Microsoft to unlock all the value of the data that we have. And that's our strategy as a firm, not just for doing audits. I mean, we're going to do it for audits, but also for our tax and our managed services platform. And I think it gives us a lot of advantages in that, like, we have spent and it's hard, George. It was hard, administrator by administrator.
Yeah.
Whether it's direct feeds, whether it's PDFs, whether it's OCR, like, it took time. But I have a wonderful team who've blood, sweat, and tears getting it done. But I think we're in a good spot. But I do think many managers are going through that journey. And there's a lot of good vendors out there who are focused in this space in particular. And I think those vendors who have an ability to connect with data, I think it needs to be a bit more modern in terms of the AI and the OCR and the unstructured piece, and that's table stakes going forward. And then putting it in a place that you can actually generate insights from. I think the industry is rallying well around this, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Tell me, well, I want on this side of a few more things, but I touched briefly on investor protection. With all these new regulated products, BDCs, REITs, interval funds, all these regulated products, you have to have a lot of knowledge around compliance and tax and et cetera. What are you finding on just what I'll call investor education? What's Pricewaterhouse doing with that subject?
Yeah, for us, we're primarily working maybe with intermediaries around investor education. Certainly, our clients are focused on that more than we are. We're more focused at the manager in educating them on the risks, the tax risks, compliance risks, and regulatory risks. So, in terms of what we're doing with our client base, it's really around our subject matter expertise around these areas. I mean, linking back to the trends I mentioned earlier on around the people, the lack of investment, I think many are coming to us to help. Well, the tax law better than anyone. You're monitoring these things. How can you help us? And then in many cases, educate our investors on the tax consequences of certain investments. And that's a key area of our business. Tax compliance, tax advisory is kind of what we do. You expect that. And then in the back office and the reporting, for us, it's like bringing excellence to the reporting function, whether it's the regulatory reports, again, us monitoring changes, educating clients changes, and managing changes as it relates to our clients' back office, both in the internal reporting, external reporting, regulatory reporting. That for us is fundamental and part of our heritage as PwC. So that's what we're focused on. But the investor reporting, I think, or an investor, it's more the investor and boards. I'd add in the boards on that one, George, because we certainly are helping boards understand the risk of products. And that's a key focus for us, because the boards are, they're newer to this. They're figuring out the valuation, the reporting, the SEC reporting, the compliance. And so we're spending a lot of time educating boards in these areas, particularly valuation space. Especially public managers, particularly going into private assets, you got to be, it's sometimes new valuation policies. How does it jive with the SEC rules around valuation reporting and board reporting? So that's where we're spending most of our time. Actually, is the board, because
the closed-end side of things can be very challenging, right? And all right. So moving along, the market. As you think about, we're already starting to talk about 2026, and it's July 8th, right? But tell me how you're feeling about just the marketplace in general, like maybe headwinds and tailwinds you might be seeing, feeling for your business.
Yeah, for our bit, well, for the public business or for the markets generally, I think that the market's getting used to volatility.
Yeah.
And so the markets will be what the markets will be, I think, but it will get easier,
Yeah.
I think the tariff stuff will go up and down, but I think it'll be priced in. So, but I'm not, if I wouldn't be doing this job if I knew all the answers, George. for our business, I do think there's a lot of focus for us on the in our non-audit world. I mean, clearly we want more audit tax clients. We love them.
Yeah.
Um, they're the best. But I think there's more to do to address the needs of a back office beyond the audit and tax relationship. And I know, yes, there will be lines from independents, but I do think there is a lot to do where we can be helpful given our brand of size and trust. I mean, we are number one audit firm into helping a back office in solidifying um, their world for growth. Because again, they're doing all this stuff of managing, but also they need to develop new funds and products and
Right.
everything the front office tells them to do. I think they need direction and help, and I think that's where our focus will be.
Yeah. How about one or two more? People and culture, right? Like we all saw a big shift with COVID, right?
Mhm.
The remote thing, the hybrid thing. Um, we found young people, starting to dictate their terms. How have tell us a little bit about maybe, uh, the culture right now you see and want at Price Waterhouse. One, and then just the kinds of people the talent you're bringing in, right, in general.
Yeah, I think that the pendulum is swing back more towards the employer the last couple of years. Um, so I think that's just the reality. I think we
Yeah, yeah.
prefer more people in the office. We don't have a strong mandate, though. I can't say I'm like, not a big
Well, you
bank.
were kind of hoteling way back when, if I
Yeah,
remember, right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But no, we're still, we still CPAs at a foundation, but at the same time, we're probably gravitating towards more the digital people, the digital skills, and those who combine a CPA knowledge or accounting knowledge with digital skills. They're really hot to hire. So we're looking for those type of people.
yeah,
Because that is the future, really. Like, I mean, a core audit is going to be important, foundational to us, but it's how we get there will be more sophisticated IT auditing, more sophisticated cyber auditing, understanding responsible AI. So those type of people, I think we'll have to. We all will be challenged to train up our younger staff. We'll all be challenged to. I do think the in office thing is important for the apprenticeship model, which I don't think is going away in the Big Four
right.
or any accounting firm, but it's also to train them up. I'm worried that we get into a world of AI and it gets easier on the paper, but we still need to train our people on the industry, George. And I
Well,
think,
I think it gets back to the bad data, bad AI. I mean,
yeah,
you still have to have SMEs,
yeah,
right, to have good AI, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's not going to yeah, it's not going to change. Like,
No, that is not. I agree.
yeah,
Yeah. All
and
right.
yeah,
So last thing, and you've been great with your time. Um, this is the elevator pitch, Declan. Like, so if you had to, for our audience, differentiate Price Waterhouse right now, in three or four ways, how would you do that?
Jesus, I didn't prepare for that question, George. But I will say, we do have a people plus technology strategy. I think it's easy to say a technology strategy, but we still believe people are at the heart of what we do. We believe that SMEs are at the heart of what we do. So we will never give up on just selling clients we got technology. We do. We got the best partners. We got the best technology. I'll say that. But also we're strategy around our people, and
Yeah.
that's going away. We're developing our people for that, and we'll always put our people at the heart of what we do for because that's at the end of the day that's important. I do think the depth of our team, depth of our relationships is stronger than ever, and it'll even get better as we get more deeper into the managed services capacity in our non-audit clients. And I do believe our differentiation is that we're really into partnering,
Yeah.
and we believe it's an ecosystem,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of opportunity for everyone to work together to make this industry better, and I think that's our philosophy to work within the ecosystem for the greater good of the asset management community, and we believe in that passion.
Yeah, listen, I think that's well said because I think your brand, the type of investment you can make, you can really help these firms build state of the art infrastructure, right? And I think they need that help because I think they're all over the place, and I think there's a handful of firms that can kind of handle that discussion end to end, right?
Yeah.
And I think you guys are. So listen, I want to thank you. Number one, thank you for being a client of Convergence. You've been a great client for a long time, and I appreciate you greatly today. Spend some time and sharing your thoughts with us. So well done, and it was a real pleasure today.
Yeah, thanks, George. Always a pleasure. Keep up the good work. Best of luck on 51.
Yeah, there you go.